Hello, my name is Siphiwo Mahala. I'm the author of 4 English titles and 1 Xhosa translation. My first novel, When a Man Cries, was published by UKZN Press in 2007. And in 2010, I rewrote the book in Xhosa and published it under the title Yakhali. And then in 2011, I published my debut short story collection, African Delights, with Jakama Media. And the same book was republished by Bookcraft Africa in Nigeria for distribution in West Africa. And then in 2017, I published my play, The House of Truth, under my family label, Iconic Productions, meaning it is self-published. And lastly, in 2019, I published my short story collection, Red Apple Dreams, under the same stable, Iconic Productions. So I would like to talk to you about self-publishing, which essentially is a system whereby you don't work with the conventional publishers. However, the quality should not be compromised. In other words, you follow the same processes that you do when you publish with conventional publishers. So first and foremost, I would say you must hone your writing skill. Something that is done through reading and writing. In other words, I believe that to be a good writer, you must be a committed reader. So, as they say, the only way to learn how to jump is to jump. So you must continue reading and writing in order to improve your writing skill. So one presumes that by the time you decide that your manuscript deserves to be published, you have satisfied yourself with what you've written, and you are able to benchmark it on the other works that you've read that you love. So the second step here would be peer review. Subject your manuscript to peer review processes. In other words, find trusted people preferably from different fields, who would read your work and make recommendation. In other words, you can start with a close friend who would understand your perspective, and then once you are fine with them, you go to a literary expert. You find a reviewer to read and give feedback on your work. So I would recommend at least 3 people that you would ask to read your work, so that you can balance their opinions. And then thirdly, once you've gotten feedback, encourage that you revise your work, taking due consideration of all the elements that they mentioned. So what that means is, whatever points they raised, you take time to consider them, and don't be too attached to your manuscript, because that is the tendency of new writers, that you become reluctant to make any changes on your work. But remember that it's the work that you're going to be sharing with the public out there. So it's important that you try and put your feelings aside and do what is best for your manuscript. And then thirdly, now this is where you start the publishing process. That you have to appoint professionals. In other words, these are people, this is where you start spending money. these are people you pay, you appoint an editor who will help you project your voice the best way you can. In other words, the editor's responsibility is not to rewrite your work, is not to change your work, but is to try and make sure that it comes across the best way possible, structurally, in terms of your expressions, if there's anything you did not get right, and also if there's a part that they feel you should discard. You should not be reluctant, and also if they feel that there's a gap in the narrative, they would advise accordingly. So preferably you should find an editor who's experienced. There are many freelance editors out there who work with different publishers. So I encourage one to look for such a person, someone who's really experienced. And also, once you are done with the editing process, or at least it has reached a stage whereby now the book can be shaped in a form of a book, the manuscript can be shaped in a form of a book, you will find a typesetter, a professional typesetter. Again, there are many typesetters who work with the various publishers. What happens is it's very easy to pick up when a book is self-published because the typeset is not consistent or is clearly not the kind that is used is common among professionally produced works. So find a freelance typesetter who will help you typeset your manuscript, and then also find a designer who would work on the cover of your book, because the appearance of the book is as important as the content thereof. In other words, the cover of your book will be contesting for space with many other books on the shelves. So there must be something that attracts a potential reader to pick your book in a bookstore or wherever it will be sold amongst all other books. So you should find a professional designer. Again, there are many freelancers out there. And then you have to appoint a proofreader. The proofreader has to be someone different from the editor. In other words, when you edit, you get familiar with the script, and there may be certain things that you miss out. So the duty of the proofreader is to dot the I's and cross the T's, make sure that punctuation is correct, and also the fact that during the typesetting period, words tend to break up in wrong places. So the proofreader will ensure that those are in place, punctuation is correct, and all things like that. And then lastly, you have to find printers. Now, this is the most expensive part of the publishing process. There are many printers out there, so you must be clear about the size of your book, the color of the paper, and typesetters can advise on these things. And when your designer packages the book, they will have specifics about what kind of cover will be required for such. So the printing is basically the last stage in the production for you to have the actual book. Now, the fifth step, or fifth tip, and the last tip that I'd like to give, relates to once you have the book. It is developing a marketing and distribution strategy. Because many authors would print a book and have it with them and not know what to do with it. And it gets really frustrating when a book is gathering dust or sits in boxes and you can't distribute it anymore. So from the moment you decide to publish a book, you must have your identified audiences, preferably not just individuals, but you should have captive audience that's in groups. It could be a community group, it could be an organization that you work with, it could be a church group, but it's important to have groups that you target over and above the individuals that you'll be selling to. But watch out, don't make people uncomfortable to such an extent that they start avoiding you because you'll force them to buy your book when they come across you. So your marketing strategy should ideally be at least in these three levels. One, you should have an individual marketing strategy, in such a way that you make use of social media, as well as print media if possible. So you should have set aside about 5% of your books for marketing purposes. However, you should know that not all of the books that you distribute will result in reviews, and that not all of the reviews will be positive. So you must be prepared for that. And secondly, you should have those groups that you are targeting, and try to encourage bulk buying. Book clubs come in handy in this instance, especially because book clubs don't only buy books, but they discuss, they put out on social media, and manage to recruit more people to know about your book. And lastly, it is media. Try and reach out to media as much as possible. It takes a while. It is advisable that you don't bombard media with reviews in a short space of time. This is my experience anyway, that there are books that everybody will be talking about for 3 to 4 weeks, and then after that it's complete silence, and that really frustrates authors. So it works better when gradually you have 2 or 3 reviews one week and then another one the next week. So reviews that keep happening sporadically over a long period of time are useful in terms of sustainability of your book, so that there is no complete silence. And the other good thing is that the longer the period of marketing the book, the more people get to see and know about the book. And there are institutions like libraries, academic institutions, as well as schools. I must say though that many authors want to see their work in the school syllabus. This happens, but it does not happen easily. It takes a while. The education department has got specific periods of time in which they ask for submissions, and there are clear processes in that regard. And also generally, your marketing and distribution strategy should have all of these elements, and you must renew it over time. In other words, it's not cast in stone. You assess the situation along the way and devise new means of reaching out to markets and also discovering new markets. These days, many authors travel around with their book. I, for one, wherever I go, I have my book in my car, so that whenever people ask for it, I make it available. Especially generally because of the lack of quality in most self-published books. Many booksellers do not stock, or rather are reluctant to stock self-published books. So it's important that you become the agent of your own distribution. And there are also individuals who exhibit books in non-conventional places. Identify those, give them your book, agree on a deal on how you will be splitting the profits. But all in all, self-publishing is the most gratifying experience if you get it right. You get your proceeds 100%, as opposed to when you publish through conventional means, where an author on average gets only about 13%, or if they are lucky, 13% of the retail price. Royalty distribution ranges between 9 and 14% if the author is well established or has an immediate audience, guaranteed audience. But generally, new authors get about 9% or 10% of the retail price. So it's a dog-eat-dog world. That is because in the conventional publishing process, you have the publisher who gets anything like 20% of the retail price. And then there's a distributor, the one who takes the book from the publisher's warehouse to the bookseller. They demand anything between 30 and 35%, actually, others, some up to 40%. And then there is the bookseller who rents space in a mall and have employees. So they take about 40% of the retail price. And then the author gets whatever remains. So that's why self-publishing is more gratifying because you get 100% of your proceeds. However, it also means that you have to have a capital to produce your work and distribute it. So good luck. Here's to self-publishing. For more information, you can log on to www.iconicproductions.co.za or email admin@iconicproductions.co.za. We'll give further advice. Thank you.